Okay, today this is going to be an experimental recipe. This is my first time doing this. I'm just working it out. It's kind of inspired by Heston Blumenthal. It all started because I had some fresh rosemary and I was thinking about making rosemary bread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making a smoked potato rosemary Parmesan bread. So my ingredients here are, of course, we're going to start off with our potatoes, which we're going to roast and smoke. I have yeast, salt, whole milk, 1 egg, Parmesan cheese, bread flour, and a little bit of lard. Alright, so for my first step, I'm going to take 2 whole potatoes. I'm going to bake them in a 350-degree oven for approximately an hour until they're done. Next step is I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of flour and a 1/2 cup of water. I'm going to mix that up, start my sponge, and then I'll add my yeast. Okay, now I'm going to add my 1 package of my yeast. You want to make sure you mix that in real good. Oxygen is good for the yeast. Yeah, so here for my smoking setup for the potatoes, I'm using a Dutch oven. I've got some charcoal briquettes going in there. We're going to throw some wood and also the rosemary stems, and then a layer of foil to smoke our potatoes, and we just throw the lid on. Okay, so here we have our baked potatoes. We're just going to cut them in half before we put them on the smoker. Okay, so we have our smoker ready with our foil. Just going to place our potatoes on there like so and cover them with a lid. And let them smoke so they absorb all that wonderful flavor. See here, we got our nicely smoked potatoes. You can see the color from smoking them. Okay, so we're going to scoop out our pulp out of our potatoes, mash that up. Okay, so I'm going to break up all this pulp with a spoon a little bit for our bread dough. Okay, so here I have potato skins. They're full of vitamins and wonderful flavor. So I'm going to cover them with a 1.5 cups of milk. I'm going to bring them up to a simmer and let them steep. Get some of that great potato flavor out of them. Okay, so now we've steeped our potatoes in our milk, extract some of those good vitamins and flavors from the skins. I'm just going to strain the milk off. Okay, while that's still hot, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of lard. I'm going to stir that in to the hot milk. Okay, now that we got our lard mixed in, we're going to also add our chopped rosemary and let that steep in the warm milk while it cools down so we can make our bread dough. As you can see here, our sponge has been working. It's got nice and bubbly. So we have our milk mixture here. I'm going to add 1 whole egg. Then we're going to whip that in. Okay, so our potato pulp, we're going to add our milk and rosemary and lard mixture along with the whole egg. Alright, we're going to add in our sponge. We're going to mix that all together. Alright, we're going to blend that all together. Alright, I didn't show this earlier, but I'm going to also add to this recipe a few tablespoons of wheat germ. Give a little added texture and vitamins in the bread. Alright, next we're going to add some salt. Alright, next I'm going to add 6 ounces of Parmesan cheese. Alright, a cup at a time, I'm going to start blending in some flour until we form a nice thick dough. As you can see, I'm starting to get a nice stiff dough, so I'm working the flour in. After I work in this flour, we're going to let it rest and rise. Okay, so there we have it, all nicely kneaded into a dough. All we have to do now is let it rise. Yeah, as you can see here, our bread dough's doubled up in size. Next I'm going to turn it out and shape it into a couple of loaves. Okay, I've turned our loaf out onto the board, cut it into 2 equal pieces. Okay, then I've shaped my bread into 2 loaves. I'm going to let them rise again before putting them in the oven. Okay, now I've had my 2 loaves that have been shaped and they've risen up. Now it's time to put them in the oven. Okay, after 1 hour in a 350-degree oven, my bread is done. Just look at that. Look at that nice texture. You get the saltiness of the Parmesan, some herbaceous rosemary, and you get a little bit of slight sweet smoky flavor from the potatoes that just kind of makes you crave more and more of this